we know that sunlight is a kind of light energy, right? And this energy, which is captured by chlorophyll, is used to synthesize the food, right? And it is used to synthesize the food from the carbon dioxide and water. Now, food, because we need sunlight for the photosynthesis to occur. That is why the process is called as photosynthesis. So if we write down photosynthesis, right? So photo means light and synthesis is to combine. That means in the presence of light, right, this particular reaction, this particular process is taking place, and if the sunlight is not present, this process will not take place, right? So sunlight gives the energy for the photosynthesis to occur. So we can say that sun is the ultimate source of energy of all the living beings. Why do we say this? It is very important to understand this because we have studied about the autotrophs and we have studied about the heterotrophs. Heterotrophs are the animals and plants which depend on the green plants directly or indirectly for food, right? And if green plants were not there, right, what will happen? That the heterotrophs will not survive. That is the reason why we say that the sun is the ultimate source of energy, because what does the leaf do? It converts the light energy of the sun, right? It traps the light energy of the sun with the help of chlorophyll and converts it into the food. And this is the food that is utilized by plants as well as the animals, right? So this is why the sun is called as the ultimate source of energy. Now you've studied and you've understood that what is the process of photosynthesis. Now if I ask you that can you imagine your life without photosynthesis? What if there were no green plants, or what if there was no process of photosynthesis? You will understand that if the photosynthesis did not occur, if there were no green plants, what will happen? This particular food will not be manufactured. The light energy of the sun will not be utilized to provide food to plants as well as animals. And that is why the life on earth will not be possible. That is the reason why green plants are so essential, because photosynthesis is the only process which can help to convert the light energy into the food, right? There is no such process. It's a very, very unique process and it can only be done with the help of the green plants, right? Apart from this, another very important aspect of photosynthesis is that photosynthesis releases oxygen. We all know that human beings, plants and animals, all of us require process of respiration wherein we are taking in oxygen, right? We all require oxygen for living. And photosynthesis is a process which releases oxygen back into the atmosphere. So this is a very, very crucial process and helps in maintaining the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen. If this process was absent, what would happen? The process, that is the cycling of the oxygen, will not take place. Right, students? So in this way we see that why is photosynthesis such an important process. Now let's understand this. So what we have studied up till now is that chlorophyll containing green leaves in the presence of sunlight convert the carbon dioxide and water into the carbohydrates, right? So these carbohydrates are the food that we eat, right? These are the energy providing nutrients that we actually obtain from the plants, right? So these are formed by CO2 and water, right? CO2 and water in the presence of sunlight, right? And this happens in the green leaves. Now, please understand, student, for this whole process to occur, chlorophyll plays a very important role. And what is chlorophyll? It is a green pigment. Now, imagine this. You must have seen the cactus plant, right? Cactus plant doesn't have leaf. The stem of the cactus plant is green. It has spines instead of leaves, right? So, any green part of the plant is able to perform this particular process, that is photosynthesis. The reason is the presence of chlorophyll. Now if you look at this diagram, this picture, that you will see that the stem is over here is green in color. So this particular stem will also be able to perform photosynthesis. The reason is the presence of chlorophyll. In cactus also, to avoid the transpiration, the leaves have been modified into spines. But the stem is green in color, which performs the photosynthesis, right? So in this way we see that wherever chlorophyll is there, wherever this pigment is present, the process of photosynthesis will occur. So we can also represent this process in the form of equation, wherein carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sun and chlorophyll converts or rather are converted into sugars, that is the carbohydrate that we were talking about, right? And water is released in this process along with oxygen, right? So you see that two basic requirements, that is the food and oxygen, both are fulfilled with the help of this process, right? Now understand, the carbohydrate which is also produced during this process is starch, and the presence of starch in the leaf indicates that that particular leaf is also is involved in photosynthesis, right?
To show that starch is produced in the presence of sunlight. Materials required: iodine solution, beaker, potted plant, test tube, Bunsen burner, tripod stand with wire gauze, alcohol, water, black paper, watch glass. Method: destarch the potted plant by placing in a dark room for 48 hours. After 48 hours, cover a part of the leaf with black paper. Leave the plant in sunlight for 5 or 6 hours. Detach the covered leaf from the potted plant. Test for starch. Put the leaf in a test tube containing boiling alcohol. Chlorophyll of the leaf will come out in alcohol and the leaf will become pale. Now remove the test tube. Take out the leaf and wash it with water. Spread the leaf on a watch glass. Put a few drops of iodine solution on the leaf. You observe that the part of the leaf exposed to light turns blue-black in color. The part of the leaf covered with black paper is brown because of the absence of starch.
Do perform this activity, and it will be really beneficial for you because you will be able to understand the importance of all the components that we discussed. Apart from that, what you can do is to check that again, to verify this particular plant is okay or not, what you can do is keep this plant in sunlight again for 3 to 4 hours and repeat this particular experiment again, and you will see that now, because of the presence of sunlight, the plant is able to synthesize its food again, and you will find the presence of starch, right? So this activity is really interesting and I hope you will be able to do it. Moving on, let's answer the question that Bujo had asked. These types of leaves are called as the variegated leaves, right? These leaves are basically, as you can see, they have different colors. Apart from green, they are usually these leaves are used, or rather these kind of plants are used for ornamentation purposes. These look very beautiful. Now, students understand that these plants also conduct photosynthesis. These leaves also conduct photosynthesis. The only thing is that the green color of these leaves are hidden under this color. These pigments that are present in the leaf actually cover the chlorophyll. But this does not mean that these leaves are not performing photosynthesis. Please understand this, that variegated leaves also perform photosynthesis. The only difference is that these leaves are covered with other kind of pigments as well. In these leaves we find other pigments also. Now, this is all about the variegated leaves. Another important part And another important this plant that you must have seen is the algae, right? Now, algae, students, slimy green colored patch that you must have seen like this in the ponds. It is very common in stagnant water, right? And this is called as the algae. Now, as you can see, algae is green colored, so that means that this particular algae also performs photosynthesis. Right? So, because of the presence of chlorophyll, these algae are also able to perform photosynthesis. Right? So, now here you can see that what is the importance of chlorophyll for the process of photosynthesis to occur. That algae, in which you cannot see any kind of leaf, but because of the presence of chlorophyll in the body, you can see that photosynthesis is being performed by this particular organism. Right? So in this way we saw that how photosynthesis occurs, and we also saw that what are the food that the plant produces. For preparing carbohydrate like sugar and starch, the plants need carbon, hydrogen and oxygen that it gets from carbon dioxide and water. But you must have heard people asking you to eat green leafy vegetables. Also, they insist that you eat dals, that is the pulses. And why they say so? They say that these food are rich in vitamins and minerals. Now you must wonder that how these substances are prepared in the plant. So let's understand this, that how other substances like vitamins, minerals and protein are synthesized in the plant. Synthesis of plant food other than carbohydrates. So we have seen that carbon, hydrogen and oxygen are used for the synthesis of carbohydrate, but these components are also required for the synthesis of proteins and fats. But apart from that, protein also require nitrogen, because proteins are nitrogenous substance, right? And these contain nitrogen. Now, in carbohydrates, we saw the presence of carbon and hydrogen and oxygen, right? If you remember, we've seen that all these three components are present. In protein, there is the presence of nitrogen, because these are nitrogenous substances. So, how do the plant get nitrogen? As you know, the gaseous form of nitrogen is in abundance in the atmosphere, but plants are not able to utilize this type or this form. That means the gaseous nitrogen is not being utilized by the plant, because the plant cannot do so. So the plant requires the nitrogen in different form. So there are various ways in which the plants get this nitrogen. Let's understand what are the different ways in which the plants obtain the nitrogen that is required for the synthesis of proteins. First of all, there are certain bacteria which absorb gaseous nitrogen, right? Gaseous nitrogen, and convert it into usable forms, right? And convert it into usable forms and release it into the soil, right? So in this way, you see, first way is the bacteria. These are the helpful bacteria that are present in the soil. So they absorb the nitrogen gas and convert it into the usable form and leave it into the soil, from where the plants absorb it, right? Another way in which the requirement of nitrogen of plant is fulfilled is by manual help. That means by adding fertilizers that are rich in nitrogen, right? And these are added to the farms. The farmers usually use these fertilizers, and the plant, again, because these are added in the soil, so the plant will take up these nitrogen along with the water, right? So the nitrogen gets mixed up into the water and the plants will take it up along with the water, right? So in this way, plants actually fulfill their requirement of nitrogen and other different constituents, and they make other kind of food apart from the carbohydrate, that is protein and vitamins, right? So in this way we see that how the plants synthesize their own food, and that's the reason why we call them autotroph. And we also saw that what is the process and how do the plants go about it. I hope you were able to understand this process completely, and all the components and what are their importance is clear to you, right?